What is going on, y'all? I am actually in Shanghai, China right now. Check it out. I have finally found some time to do some video editing. I have 3 videos I need to get out to y'all, but this is the last one of the build series, build part 7, where I actually get it driving. I was so pumped. Anyway, check it out. Getting the intercooler mounted now. I'd love to get some sort of logo done here. I saw the DF Kit Car guys did Goon Squad across here for the Goon Squad Goblin. One of the things too that I realized when I was mounting this reservoir tank hose, you gotta disconnect that from over here, and then you gotta feed it through. You gotta feed it right through there. So it looks like the bracket was perfectly cut to allow that to come through. Obviously, I mean, maybe most of y'all already know this, but for those that don't, turbo is here. So the air will flow through here, and then water flows through these guys, and then the water gets cooled off in the front, and the air gets cooled off as it flows through the cool water. And I've got all the charge pipes and elbows and stuff right here, going to get that connected. All right, so I've got my intake plumbing pretty much done. So essentially this will sit in the frame just like this, and the mass airflow sensor that is there will plug in here. All right, so the piping from the intercooler into the intake manifold will be this, plus some U-joint piping down there at the bottom. And I had been having a problem with the U-joint down there at the bottom. It was kind of falling into the fuel tank there. It turns out so this was like perfectly symmetrical on both sides, but if you trim all that down, this will fit up on the, like around the butterfly valve on the intake manifold. So now you can see it's sitting flush around the top, and it's not being dented in by the fuel tank where it was like crushing half of that. I'll just get the hose clamp up, tighten that up, and get the other piece installed. Okay, front piping is good. Obviously I need to get the map sensor in there and connect that hose, the vacuum hose there. But the charge pipes are good. And then we'll just polish that up. This is crazy. I'm holding the pipe way down here, and just from cutting it with the angle grinder, it's so hot. Boom, the turbo system is complete. Okay. We've got intake to the turbo, which spools up from the exhaust, compressing the air into the intercooler, which I've got to connect the water system to cool it down, but don't worry about that right now. And then travels into the intake system. And don't worry about this map sensor and the vacuum line here, but the intercooler plumbing, the turbo plumbing is set. I finally get to start it with it all complete. All right, next up I need to get the front brake lines installed. I keep forgetting to do this, so I'm gonna go ahead and do it now because I'm afraid I'm gonna get it drivable because, oh, by the way, I got my seats in. I'll show you more on those later. But I need to get the brakes going so I don't try to take it out and drive without brakes. Super simple on this part. Basically what's gonna happen is drop the flexible hose right here to connect to the caliper. And you can see there's a little, see the hole in there? That's what's gonna allow the fluid to connect right here. And then we'll route it back here along the upper control arm, and it'll swing right under here to connect to the steel brake line. And if you're planning on building one of these, now's a great time to remind you to hold on to your brake clips, your brake hose clips from your donor car, because you will need them right here. Once you seat the flexible, the rubber one in here, then you'll slide the clip on, and then that's when you get the steel line in and screw it down. All right, for the tail lights, I just did wire nuts for now to make sure they work, and they do. And then I soldered them together and shrink wrapped them with the heat wrap tubing. Whoa, this stuff And then I just wrapped it with this Super 88 vinyl electric tape. And that made it all nice and clean up here. So, and then I'll just kind of collapse it up a little bit behind the light and route it up behind the tube so it's nice and hidden. Okay, lights on both sides are done, looking good. All right, working on my shifter cables now, messing with the angles and the lengths and stuff like that, trying to get these all just kind of set up. It looks like the nuts need to be closer to the end of the rod here because the cables run a little bit long. And just kind of messing around with how I want them threaded. If I want them both on the same side or if I want one on this side, just from an angle and a bend perspective there. One important thing to remember is, so the cables will be connected, there'll be two up here, right? The left one on the front will go to the shorter arm in the back. So right here, this will be the left cable. Okay, I've got a slight problem with the brake fluid reservoir. The angle it's mounted at, I actually need to raise it up on the pedal box back here. So that way it's this part is flatter. What I just learned is this section of the reservoir is actually for the brakes, and the brake and the clutch share the same fluid, but the clutch reservoir is actually this back here. And right up here at the top is the overflow from here into the clutch reservoir to allow the clutch fluid to flow that way, right? But it seems even as I fill this up, it's like there's a bubble here that doesn't allow the fluid to even flow over here. So when I try to bleed the clutch, it's not getting fluid. Okay, so up there at the top, right here is all my grounds, right, for the vehicle, or most of them. And then down here is how the clutch reservoir, or the brake reservoir is mounted. But what I've got to do is shift the grounds down, and then there's another, I think you can see from this angle, there's another hole below that. So if I move the reservoir up to those two holes, move the grounds down, then that'll level this guy out. Cool, need to do that. And then after I'm done there, I'm going to put the driver's seat in, because just asking my wife to help me whenever you bleed clutch and brake pedals, you got to press this stuff in. It's easier if you can use your foot and actually sit down. So I'm going to do that. All right, cool. Here we go. Okay, that's all fixed. The ground is moved to the bottom. You have a spare hole, and then the reservoir is moved to the top two holes. Gonna check the fluid. Need to put a little bit more in it now, and then bleed the brakes. Get the chair in. We'll move on from there. All right, you can see how the positioning works. There's 3 positions. I'll probably start it in the rearmost because I'm about 6'4" with shoes on, so that should be optimal. We can adjust from there. But, and this is the extended frame. You can tell the difference between the extended and non-extended frames by this gap here. The non-extended frames won't have 2 bars, they'll be 1 bar. You can tell even in the rearmost position, that's the space behind. I know several people were talking about the gap back here, being able to use it for luggage and whatnot. There's also a firewall that's gonna go right here in the back that'll be flush against the floor pan. But it gives you a concept or an idea of space behind the driver's seat. But oh, that looks good. Power steering. I'm honestly thinking I will probably move that seat up a little bit. Yeah, that is just a ton of space. I normally like being kind of right up on the wheel when I'm racing. Yeah, I guess that'll just give me some cargo space. Dang, oh, this feels so good. Tell him, what's Daddy doing? Say, Daddy's vrooming. No, okay, fine.
It's tight on my hips. My childbearing hips don't fit in the seat.
So. All right, you want to fire it up, don't you? The key's right here.
Thank you.
It's like a Porsche. It's on the left.
Okay, so I don't have to put my foot on the brake or anything?
Not yet. You'll put the clutch down. Just turn it.
Listen. I don't want to be the one that rolls this into the creek.
The transmission is not connected. It's in neutral, no matter what.
Gracie, you want to sit
It won't
with
go
me?
anywhere.
You want to sit with me and broom with
The
me?
gas and brake don't work yet.
Here, come over here.
Yeah, gas and brake don't work yet. So turn the key, the ignition.
Until when?
Just a couple clicks over. One more.
One.
There you go. Do you hear the fuel pump? All right, now it's done. Now push the clutch in.
Clutch is all the way on the
All
left.
the way on the left. Yeah, just push it in. There you go. It doesn't have pressure on it yet. And now go ahead and turn the ignition.
It's very roomy.
Pretty sweet, huh? What do you think? Press the gas.
All the way on the right.
Yeah, but don't like hold it down. Yeah. Give it some actual gas. There you go. All right. We're good. Huh?
How do I turn it off?
Just turn the key the other direction.
Is it going to be able to climb that hill?
Is it going to be able to climb that hill? Babe, it's going to launch off of that hill.
Like, I just envisioned Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
All right, what I'm working on right now is the boost gauge. So in the 09 and 2010 models, I thought it was just the 2010 models, but mine was an 09 and it had this. You've got an electronic boost gauge. And so it sits in this, that's just the screen protector right there. And then this was the thing that went on the back of the screen protector, and basically it was mounted on, well, not this way, but this way, up on the pillar on the driver's side there. So what I'm doing is taking it apart, and this is the boost gauge that they use, which is typically just a dial. It's an analog gauge, and it mounts right here. So I'm trying to figure out, I just finished painting it, but I'm gonna get it, it's still drying a little bit, but I'm gonna install it here and install the hood and the windscreen and all that kind of stuff, and see if there's a way I can get the electronic gauge to mount here on top of this guy and fit underneath the hood right here. What I'm thinking so far is I'm looking at taking this apart and seeing if I can just use these screws through those two holes there. I just kind of took off the whole housing, but if I can just kind of mount this right there and it'll just sit flush. I'm a little bit worried about it being an open container. Maybe there's a way I can put the housing still around it. I think what I need to do is go ahead and put the hood and the windshield on so that way I can see what kind of space I'm playing with under here. This is probably the most satisfying part here. Just peeling off for the install. But man, it just looks so good. Can't wait to get that wing up there to just complete the look. Dang. All right, we gotta get this thing driving. Shifter is fully installed, which I'm loving. It may need some final adjustments. I jumped in and was playing around with it a little bit now that I got the clutch stuff figured out. I can't seem to get in first or reverse, but maybe it was because the tunnel cap wasn't tightened down. So I'm doing the rivets on that right now. As you can see down the way here, so I can jump back in and try that. However, I also need to move the seat back forward. It's in the furthest back position, and I am having to use kind of the ends of my feet to get to those pedals, if y'all can believe it. Okay, seat out. The tunnel cap has been sealed with rivets. There we go. About to get into this.
I bet
Oliver would love to ride with you.
Yeah. You think this 5-point harness will hold him?
He doesn't even have any arms or legs.
Oh, okay. All right, we've got it fired up for the inaugural ride. Yeah? You ready? You ready?
Oh, I don't want to.
You don't want to go? It's moving. Why are you pouting? Ah, don't pout. All right, here, hold this so I can drive.
Okay, can I get out now?
You don't like it?
No.
All right.
Turn around.